Have you ever caught yourself watching a Tekken streamer or content creator use some terms and you go to yourself, you know what? I'm not sure what he's talking about. Well, you've come to the right place. I'm going to talk about some common Tekken terms and what they mean. So next time you hear them in conversation, you know exactly what's happening. Let's get into it. One of the first things you'll hear in a conversation regarding Tekken is numbers. Most specifically, the numbers 1, 2, 3, and 4. This is because each of those numbers correspond to a limb on your character's body. So if you hear 1, that is going to be left punch on your character. If you hear the number 2, it's going to be right punch. If you hear the number 3, it's going to be left kick. And if you're going to hear 4, then it's right kick. Most of the time when you hear moves talked about in conversation, they are normally expressed in their number button notation. So for example, like Kazuya's 443 right here. Unless there are a well-known move like Kazuya's Perfect Electric Wind God Fist, or King's Giant Swing, which needs no introduction. Another term you'll hear is the word neutral. This is where both players neither have an advantage or a disadvantage. The playing field is even. Like the start of a round, for example. When you hear players talking about having a strong neutral game, this can refer to a variety of things. Being able to attack your opponent without them being able to attack you. Some characters have moves that are better at mid-long distance as opposed to close distance. Controlling the distance between you and your opponent, not pushing buttons all the time, especially when your opponent expects it. What to do in neutral varies on a match-by-match basis based on how your opponent is playing and what your character's strengths are. You know, while we're talking about neutral, we might as well get into neutral input. In moves, this is notated by the star icon. It's where you don't press anything for a brief moment in time. No movement from your joystick or pad, no press from any buttons. An example of this is Kazuya's hop kick, where you hit up forward 4, don't press anything, and then you press 4. The reason being, if you press up forward and 4 at the same time, you get a different move, as opposed to the hop kick. Another notorious move is the Electric Wind God Fist from Kazuya, where we have to go ahead and hit forward. You see the star notated right here, then down, and then down, forward, and whatever input you're going to put in. So it could be this, it could be that, which is the perfect electric, which can be pain in the butt to do, especially without practice. I'm not a Mishima player at all, so I completely suck. Whether it's Kazuya, Jin, Reina, Devil Jin, or Heihachi, we miss you, old man, they all have that same input. One of the most common terms you'll hear someone talk about is frame data. This move is X amount of frames fast. It's plus Y on block/hit. It's minus Z on block. These phrases all refer to frames of a specific move for a specific character. Tekken runs at 60 frames per second, so a single frame is a measure of time. In the bottom left-hand corner, you see something called attack startup frames, which is how fast a move is. How long does it take to commit this move within a second in 60 frames? So for example, Reina's electric, it is between 11 and 12 frames fast. Because now you have a understanding of what startup frames are, or how fast a move is. We can talk about the frame advantage that you see here. So specific moves, sometimes they may be plus on hit, which means you're at an advantage. Or if the opponent is blocking, or some moves in general, they're a minus on hit. You are plus, that means that it is your turn again, and that your opponent has to kind of wait it out. So right now we have Azusena to hit a jab after a hit or a block. So since Reina's move that we did before was +5, that means that if we were to go ahead and throw out a jab, our jab will come out faster than Azusena's jab. Like so. And you see it is a counter indicator in the bottom left. She's still throwing it out. Just mine is coming out faster because I am +5 on hit. Now the same thing can be said for a move that's on block, because a move can have different properties on hit or on block. So this move was +5 on hit, but you can see if we do it when opponent's blocking, it's -11. That is free game for the opponent to do a move that's either 10 frames fast or 11 frames fast, and there's nothing that we could do about it. We have to go ahead and take that damage. We have to take that hit. And you know, while we're talking about frames, let's talk about the term just frame. You are going to press 2 specific inputs at the exact same time on the exact same frame. An example of this is Reina's electric. If we go ahead and we take a look at her electric here and her techniques, it tells you right here, electric wind god fist to press down, forward, and 2 simultaneously at the same time. And you'll know you'll get it because of how different it looks. The difference between this and that. If you look at the command history, you can see from the first time that I tried to put in the electric, I actually put in down forward 3 frames faster than the down forward and the 2 input. But if you look at my most recent one, it's clean, where I did forward, neutral, where I wasn't pressing anything, down, and then down forward 2 at the same time. There's no plain down forward input that came out beforehand. That's what a just frame is. If you want another example, Lee has a ton of just frame moves. One of his popular moves that is quite difficult to do is his acid rain, his 10 frame Punisher. That's a just frame. The last 2 hits of that, you have to hit at the exact time that the kick hits Azucena on the exact input. Because if you don't, you end up with something like this, where you mess up. But if you hit it on a just frame, you get everything. Now, when a move is safe, that means that your opponent cannot punish it by regular means of blocking. Let's say, for example, we're gonna have Azucena block. We're gonna do block off. If we do Lee's while standing to 4, you see that it is -2. So by regular means of blocking, it is safe. If we did forward, forward 3, it is -9, which means that it is also safe because the fastest attack in this game is a jab, and that is 10 frames. Now, the only exceptions to this, especially for highs, like this move right here, is if your opponent has enough knowledge of your character, then they can actually duck this high and be able to punish you, but the second hit can be ducked, like this. So you have to kind of take that into consideration about whether a move can be ducked or whether a move can be sidestepped, so that instead of it being safe, it actually can be punished. And you'll be able to tell based upon what your opponent is actually doing mid-game. So since we talked about a move that is safe, we might as well talk about moves that are unsafe. These are moves on block. They are -10 or more. And if you remember previously what I said, at the fastest move that you can do is a jab at 10 frames. So inputting it perfectly, you'll be able to get a punish on whatever 10 frame punish your character has. For Lee, his punish is 1, 2, 4, like so. And it says punish highlighted in the bottom left-hand corner. But this move specifically, there's options that you can choose, because if you look here on the right-hand side, it's -13. So I can do any move that is at most 13 frames to be able to punish this move correctly. So I did that move instead. I did that move instead. There are options that you can do within that window of time. You just gotta choose one that you're most comfortable with. And since we're talking about punish, we'll talk about what does it mean when a move is launch punishable. So this move right here, not launch punishable, because we did not get a full-blown combo out of it. Usually, if a move is launch punishable, it is -15 frames or more, but there are specific cases where a character can launch you if you are -13 or so. I believe Kazuya's Twin Pistons is an example. And I think maybe Jin's while standing 2, possibly 2. Don't quote me on that. I know one move specifically for Azucena that is launch punishable is her, I think it's called her Kilimanjaro uppercut. So if we see her do her Kilimanjaro uppercut, it is -21. So I can do really whatever I want at this point. I could do my 10 frame punish, or like you talk about, for a move that is launchable, launch punishable, we get a full-fledged combo, 69 damage, as opposed to just the 10 frame 27 damage. Now, a whiff punish is where a character does a move that is just outside of your range and you have the ability to punish it. Boom. There you go. That's a good punish right there. So when we talk about when a move has tracking to a specific side, that means that it favors one character's side and that move has a weakness to the opposite side. A good example of this is Kazuya's Hell Sweep. When Kazuya does a Hell Sweep, what you want to be able to do is to sidewalk left as opposed to sidewalking right. Because if you try to sidewalk right, you'll end up getting clipped. But if you sidewalk left, Kazuya will just go right past you. So if you try to sidewalk right, you end up getting clipped, right? But sidewalking left for the Hell Sweep, it'll completely miss us. Of course, if you mistime it, then you're gonna get hit. Now, if we want to go ahead and take it to the next level, if a move is homing, that means that it will track equally to both sides and you cannot step it no matter how hard you try. And it is notated by this kind of like this circular ring in a way. Doesn't matter, see? I try to sidestep, it's gonna find me no matter what. So you may hear some of your favorite creators go, oh my gosh, this character has ridiculous strings, blah, blah, blah. Strings, right? What is a string? It is a combination of inputs from most likely from your move list, where if you input a specific combination, hey, that is what constitutes as a string. Like for example, this left, right, mid kick right here, this is a 1-2-4 string for Lee. And he has some other strings too, like 2-1-3, 2-1-4. That is what a string is. And when characters have a lot of strings, it can be difficult to try to go ahead and counter. Because especially with a move like 2-2-3 for Lee, sometimes you may stop here just doing 2-2, but then you might want to go ahead and extend it, especially if you do get the hit on the second 2. Now, while strings you have to hit buttons in a specific sequence, there are some special cases where a move is hit confirmable. It's when you can see whether a move connects and then you can actually input the next button in the sequence once you get confirmation that the move actually went through. Now with a regular string, you can't delay that. You either have to put the whole thing in or you're gonna have to stop at some point. But for Lee, example of a hit confirmable move that he has is forward 2-1. So you can see the difference in speeds between doing something like this and doing something like that. I even can delay it even more. And it's still a natural combo that you see right there. It's still a 2-hit, 37 damage combo. And the reason why you would want to hit confirm this move is because the second move is a high. You're going to configure Kazuya to do twin pistons after ducking the high move. Here it is. Natural combos are strings, but not all strings are natural combos. So one example of a natural combo for Lee is his 1-2-4. It's a 3-hit, 27 damage combo. Whereas if I go ahead and complete this whole string, it is not interruptible whatsoever. A string that is not a natural combo on regular hit, it's Lee's 2-2-3. And the way that I'm gonna do that is I'm gonna have an opponent's action set to standing. Action after a hit or a block, I'm going to do standing block. And this is the way to tell you, because after the second hit, the character is gonna block. But if we do 2-2, you see that it blocks the second hit. This isn't a natural combo on regular hit. But if we were to go ahead and do counter hit, this is where properties can change. If this is counter hit, then this becomes a natural combo. Or, so say for example, you whiff the first, but you hit the second one, then the 3 in the 2-2-3 is guaranteed. You hear someone talk about poking. You can think of it as a couple ways. You can think of it as, if boxing, what are you doing to an opponent, right? You're jabbing at them, right? You're slowly winding them down. They might be blocking, but hey, they're definitely taking energy with those hits. Well, in Tekken, if someone is blocking, man, at some point their defenses might be broken. And it doesn't always have to be like punches. A lot of times when people use poking, they usually do it with lows, and more so lows that are hard to react to, and where you would have to actually have to predict when a person is going to throw out a low. This is why most of the time people will take the damage from the low, because damages from the low are usually less than a damage that you would take from a high base move or a mid. Now, just because a move is a poking based move doesn't mean that it is always safe. It's just a way for you to be able to kind of keep your distance away from the opponent and work your way on taking their health down slowly but surely. Like, you're not looking for a major launch or a major punish or strings or anything like that. You just, every now and then, just gauging the matchup, boop, you go ahead and hit him with a low poke, maybe hit him with a 1-2 jab, a little bit of a mix up here and there. That's how I view poking as. You're just poking here in your defense here, poking low your defense here, boom, 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 kind of seeing where you open up the game for you to be able to have those big launches, those counter hits. So when we talk about a move that jails, it means that within a string, you cannot change your defensive position. Say, for example, we're going to do a 2-1-2 string from Okizeme, right? So the first two hits I can't necessarily do anything about, but the third hit I can actually duck, like so. Even if I get hit by the first two, I can still duck the last hit. An example of a move that jails from Okizeme is her while running 3-2, because even though the first hit is a mid and the second one is a high, so by theory we should be able to duck it, right? But because there is so much pushback from it and it happens so quick, I can't change my defensive position for it. So this move jails. Defend against this, if I had proper timing, is to sidestep left and duck, like so. You may see this term when you go into your all technique list called while rising. When you're crouch and you change from crouch to stand, there are specific moves that you have access to. Like while rising 4 is also called while standing. So while standing 4, while standing 2-3, while standing 1-2. This is just examples for Lee. Now, Lee is a very specific case where he doesn't always have to be in crouch in order for him to have access to these moves. So Lee has something called a misstep. And if you are able to cancel the misstep right at the point where it ends, you'll see like this back sway. There's a little window of time where you can press a button and it'll actually cancel into a while standing type of move. So if I wanted to do this move while standing 2-3, I could do that instead. He also has a special case where in Hitman's stance, he can actually cancel into another while standing move as well. This may be possible for other characters, but Lee is the character that I know best, and I know that he has access to these type of moves. Another common term that you'll hear people say is like, dang, I just don't know the matchup, or I keep getting knowledge check. If you are continuously getting knowledge check in a matchup, your opponent is testing you on what do you really know about this character. Do you know that this character has stances? Do you know that this character has evasion with specific type of moves that if you go ahead and press into them, then they will evade the move and they could possibly launch you or get extra damage, or our opponent can throw completely unsafe moves at you, and if you don't know whether you can punish the moves or not, they're just going to keep throwing them at you. This is what it means about when you keep getting knowledge check. Do you know the weaknesses of the character? Do you know what the general game plan is for this character? What are they trying to accomplish? That is the general consensus of when you're hearing someone talk about getting knowledge check. When you hear Tekken creators talk about flow charting, what they mean is that you are basically using a select set of moves based off of previous success of those moves without any situational awareness or any type of mixing up. So let's say, for example, for Kazuya, right? you do 1-1-2, you go up, and you always do a hell sweep or something like that, right? Because you know that, hey, after knocking them down, they never go ahead and block low. That could be like your flowchart, for example, because it is something that is predetermined, it's pre-planned, it might be gimmicky, whatever you want to go ahead and call it. This is usually successful against people that aren't good at adapting to what the current situation is, what is actually happening in real time. Because somebody that's gonna say, okay, you've been hitting me with this move 1-1-2, you might wave dash in front of me. I'm not a Mishima player, so don't mind me up. You might wave dash in front of me, hit me with a hell sweep. If I can go ahead and call that out and make a prediction, I could block that hell sweep and then get a launch for a good combo. This is situation. This is having good situational awareness. Or instead of being able to block that, you can also sidestep left, because that is Kazuya's weak side if we're talking about the hell sweep. And since we're talking about something that kind of goes hand in hand, we're going to talk about also the term autopilot. Basically means that you are just going through the motions. You're not actively thinking about a game plan. You're just going with the flow of whatever the match is happening. Like, you're not using your brain. You're not reacting. You're not trying to counter your opponent. You're just repeating the same pattern over and over and over again. It's almost like saying, hey, I know this move may not be working so on this character, but I'm not really thinking about how I can go ahead and adapt my strategy in order to win. I'm just gonna go ahead and just continue doing it, because you're not actively thinking about what is going on in that point in time. Also on autopilot, if you think about it, if you knock somebody down and they always wake up with a spring kick, what you can do, you can cause them to whiff and hit them again for free damage. You know Brian's Snake Edge, right? It's a crazy low that does end up giving a full combo, but it is also absolutely minus launch punishable, and it is also this next term, reactable. So if you look at how slow this move is, it is roughly half a second, which would consider this move to be a reactable based move where you can see Brian go ahead and do it, and you can go ahead and launch properly. Now, there are some moves where obviously if they come out pretty fast, you aren't going to be able to react to it, and it's all based upon instinct, based upon predictions that you may make in a match. But this is what we mean when saying, like, okay, this is reactable, this is seeable. You can process what's actually happening and then come up with the right punish and get the damage that you deserve. Now, the more that you end up playing Tekken 8, the more likely you're going to have to do something called a hard read, which you are going to have to make a prediction based on evidence of what has previously happened in a match on what your opponent is going to do, and you're going to do a very specific action. So say, for example, you know that a character is going to do a high after a very specific sequence. So you're going to say, okay, next time this happens again, I'm going to make a hard read that this is going to happen, and then I am going to duck that high. Now, if you have been adapting to what your opponent has been doing in a match, then this can, while still difficult, it can be easier. But if you're trying to make a read without processing any of the information that's happened in a match, it's like you're looking into the room and there's no light. It's just pure darkness. How can you see? How can you make a prediction off of that, right? Now, when you hear the term download, like, man, I just downloaded my opponent that whole match, they know exactly what you're going to do when you're going to do it, which means that you have become too predictable in your game plan and in your moves to the point where they already know what you're going to do and they already have a counter plan for it. It's like when you go and download a file from the internet and you have it on your computer and you open it up, it's exactly what you expected it to be. In Tekken's case, how you're playing is exactly how they expected you to play. Oki, or the more former term, Okizeme. Think of it as get up situation mind games where, say for example, for Kazuya, you might do a hell sweep on you, right? And Kazuya has a 50-50. And while you're on the ground, you have to make a choice. You have to make an active choice. What are you going to do? Are you going to crouch block? Are you going to stand block? Are you going to tech roll left? Are you going to tech roll right? Are you going to spring kick? Are you going to roll back? Kazuya has answers for a lot of those different situations. After a hell sweep, if you stand on the ground because you are expecting another hell sweep to come out, you can do forward, forward, 4. And then that's extra damage right there, free damage. If you get up straight and you don't crouch block, you could do another hell sweep. If you get up and you do crouch block, you can do forward, forward, 3. So it's just different ways of being able to keep pressure on your opponent and get up situations to force them to make a decision on what they need to do in real time, trying to predict what you are going to do in real time. The further away you are from your opponent, the less chance of being able to have those type of situations, of being able to have good Oki. We're going to go to something simple here. Powercrush. Powercrush is an armored move where an opponent can attack you and you will take damage, but you will continue to finish the move to attack them. Now, there are some cases where if the opponents, when they're attacking you, it's a quick attack, they could have the time in order to recover and block the attack. But if it is an extended type of attack, then you will most likely get the damage in that situation. There we go. You see that right there, where I took the hits from Brian, but I still was able to finish the move. And as always, if there's anything that you would love to add to the video, something that I may have explained incorrectly, or if you can provide a better explanation, leave something in the comments below. I don't know everything. I'm just spreading knowledge on what I know, and we're all trying to grow, learning Tekken together.